Hello YouTube. So, I actually started a brand new book of shadows in the first week of this month, August 2017, and I have been working nonstop on it since I started it. I think I started it on the second or third of this month, but I just kind of wanted to make a video and chronicle where I'm at because I am desperately in need of taking a break from this book. So I wanted to do a flip through because I have been watching other Book of Shadow flip throughs and creative idea videos, that kind of stuff. It's just been a big obsession of mine this month. But I wanted to do a real quick, before I get to my new one, which is this one, I wanted to real quick just kind of go over what my first two Book of Shadows kind of sort of looked like. I'm not going to do real detailed flip throughs, but this was my very first Book of Shadows, and it is just a 3-ring binder, and everything that is in it except for this cover here I actually just printed off. But my journey began in about mid-January of 2012, and it actually started with a dream. So once that happened, I actually just did all of the research that I could and gathered as much information as I could, and basically just kind of threw it all together. And I used this book for the first, couple of years. I believe I used it for 2 years, and not everything made it in here, but I got kind of tired of just printing stuff and putting it in a 3-ring binder. I wanted something a little bit more personal. So I started this Book of Shadows, which is just a really nice leather bound journal that I got at Walmart for, I think it was $12 or something like that. And there are no pictures, well, almost no pictures in here, but it is more personal because it's my own handwriting and some of the what's the word I'm looking for? Ritualistic things that I did during my path. And I used this book up until, I want to say I stopped using it around my birthday last year, so in October, because my path just really, it's been changing like crazy. And so a lot of this stuff has actually been moved to my new Book of Shadows, but a lot of it I'm just basically leaving behind because it doesn't apply to me or my path anymore. So I basically used half of this book right here and was like, okay, I need to do something else. So set those aside and pull over my new Book of Shadows. And I actually don't call this a Book of Shadows. I call this my Book of Songs. In about the middle of January, earlier this year, I started teaching myself how to play violin and how to read and write music, both of which are completely, well, they're not anymore, but at the time were 100% completely new to me. I had virtually no musical training, and what I had was actually vocal training. So I had never picked up a violin in my life. I had never been taught how to read music. Never really took any serious music lessons. And so I wanted to, because I use the violin in my practice a lot. I use sound therapy for myself, and so I wanted to put all of that information in here. I haven't gotten there yet, but I actually kind of have this book. It's got a section all to itself when I do get to it, But I call this my book of songs simply because basically if it makes my heart or my soul happy, if it makes my spirit sing, then it goes in this book. Whether it's, a collage on one of my favorite books or something, some kind of magical information, like I have a page on candle magic in here, or, all of the violin and musical information that I'm going to have in here, my totem animals, that kind of stuff. If it makes my spirit sing, if it makes my soul happy, then it's going to go in this book. I wanted a little journal like this so that I could take it places with me, because I actually don't put super private stuff in my books. I have separate journals for that. But I wanted this book to be kind of a source of inspiration for myself. And I did kind of do it scrapbook style, which you will see when I actually open it. But I'm a writer, so I really liked this Write Your Story. And actually, some of the first things in this book are things that I wrote myself. So this is a journal that I got at my local bookstore for about $10. Actually, I think it was a little less than that. But I don't know if you guys can see the feather that's been pressed into the leather here. That is just absolutely gorgeous. And this right here was a flap that came, like it was connected to the back cover and came up over the top. There's a little button clasp right under this thing. But as you can see, this book just kind of blew up. And I haven't even used half of the pages that are in it yet. So I just went ahead and cut it off and pasted it on here. I found this little pretty medallion sitting around my house, so I glued it on there for decoration. And the stitching on the front and back up here were coming undone because I cut the leather. So I put little book corners on here just to keep the stitching in place so that it wouldn't unravel. But I used some leftover pieces of buckskin lace that I had to tie this closed, and I just used duct tape and super glue to get those in there. And I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but this blue is actually TARDIS blue, because last year I made a TARDIS Dreamcatcher, and I had just this little tiny bit of buckskin lace left in this color that I really didn't know what to do with until I started this book. And so I was going through my scrap pieces of buckskin lace and found it, and I'm like, yes, I have to use my TARDIS blue buckskin lace on my book. I have to. So, and then I have some more buckskin lace over here, which I actually used to put a couple of inserts that I made into this book. And I didn't mean to, but I ended up choosing red and gold, which just happened to be Gryffindor colors, which just happens to be my Hogwarts house. So, it worked out pretty nice. And down here are some of my spiritual necklaces that I don't actually wear for various reasons, including allergies, like I'm allergic to some of the materials that these are made of. But yeah. So I just looped those over the back cover and then, oops, lost my sticky note there. And then used hair ties to attach them. And these are just those real cheap hair ties you can get at the dollar store. You can get 50 of them for $2 or something like that. They're the really thin ones. And I braided them for one, aesthetics, because it looks better than 3 black lines on the back of my book. But it also kind of makes it a little bit more stable. So it worked out okay. So I need to slip this back in here because when I open this book, you will see I have my personal information on the first page. just in case I ever lose this book, because I do take it with me when I go places. So the first page, like I said, I've got my personal information, so I've got that covered because I don't want anybody trying to get a hold of me outside of YouTube. But these are 3 maple leaves off of the maple tree that's in my backyard. I actually live in my great-grandmother's old house. My family has been in and out of this house for many, many, many years. And this tree has actually been on the property since before my mother was born. So he has been a guardian for my family for over 60 years. And so I just took a few leaves from him that he willingly gave, and I wrote one of my names on the reverse side of each leaf, and then, pasted them in here. Right here I have some of the sparrow feathers that I have found in my neighborhood, because sparrow is a very important totem animal for me. And then in this envelope, I'm not going to open it and show you guys, but I actually have a poem that I wrote specifically for this tree. I call him Orin, for those of you that are Final Fantasy fans. He feels very, very much like Orin. He's a very good guide and guardian. And in a lot of places in this book, I just added color by just kind of having fun with some watercolor paints. So right here, this is a page that I added, as you can see, with a piece of paper and some double-sided sticky tape. And basically it's just a double pocket page that I made using this beautiful plastic sheeting that's had this Victorian print on it. I cut 2 pieces of it and put a piece of white vellum paper in between. So I essentially have 2 pockets. So on each side I have some herbs. You can see them right there too. And I like to keep a pen with this journal because I do journal in it. That's what one of my inserts is for. So I just have a giant paper clip in here that I keep my pen on. So another piece of paper and double-sided sticky tape. Keep this page in here. And then my title page with my book blessing that I wrote myself. Went over it with some watercolor, and basically, like I said, I did this kind of scrapbook style, so I had all of these little embellishments that I had collected and stolen from my mother's crafting collection. So if I liked it, I just kind of threw it on here, make it look pretty. Very childlike, very creative. So this next page is very near and dear to my heart. The first thing that you'll see in this little tuck pocket that I made with Scotch tape is a hawk feather that my stepmother brought home for me because she knows that hawk is my main totem animal and I work with him very closely. So I actually like to keep this with me so that it feels like he's with me wherever I go. And then if I ever am in need of smudging or anything like that, I have a smudging feather with me, which is kind of nice. So behind him, behind that feather, I have a Doctor Who print picture here, Van Gogh image with the TARDIS that I just absolutely love because I am a total Whovian. I'm also a Harry Potter nerd. So right here, a very dear family friend many years ago, back in 2002, introduced me to Harry Potter, and inside the cover of Sorcerer's Stone that she sent me, she wrote this note. And last year I actually had to replace my entire Harry Potter collection because the books were literally falling apart, like I had them all duct taped together. So I cut this out of the front cover and put it in the cover of my new copy of Sorcerer's Stone. But I wanted to have this in here because it's such a big part of my life. So I took a picture, like a really good close-up picture, and just printed it out and pasted it in here. So, and again, watercolor all around the page. So the next section, this is actually a creation story that I wrote about the moon, sun, and stars, and how we are all star children, how we came to be, that kind of thing. And I did a little bit of drawing up here, but for the most part, I just illustrated this section with images that I found on Google and Pinterest, because I can't really draw at all beyond, you know, moons and suns. That's pretty much it. I can draw stick people, but I really don't want that in my spiritual book. So, as you can see, it's a pretty lengthy story. So there it is. That's the end of it. But then we get to my first insert, and I have two in here, and I actually set them up like traveler's journal inserts. And I did it that way specifically so that when they're full, I can take them out and still be able to continue to use this book for the sake of my journaling. But basically what I did was just took a piece of beautiful cardstock that I found, cut it to size, and then filled it with regular printer paper. And so, I mean, right now, all that's in here are notes from, like, webinars that I've been attending, and, turn you dang thing. A picture that I found on Facebook that I thought would be a really fun activity to do, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So, but then the next section is just a very short and sweet version of the Wiccan read, because in the beginning of my path, I did identify as Wiccan, but as of about 2 years ago, I quit identifying as Wiccan and went just straight to just pagan. But this right here is very near and dear to my heart because it was kind of the beginning of my path. And so I did want a page in here on this just because it represents what to me was a major milestone in my life. So very handmade looking. And this is actually a tag from a book of tags that I got at the craft store, which I thought at the time would be a good idea. And I'm kind of regretting it now, but it doesn't look as bad as it could have if I had tried to draw something like that out. So then we get to the 4 pillars. Sorry guys, I got a phone call and the video got interrupted, but we were at the 4 pillars, also known as the Witch's Pyramid. And this, I went around the edges with watercolor, of course, but these were stencils that I found on Pinterest and just printed out, colored in. And then this roof shape, I actually made that on Microsoft Word, and then I printed it out and distressed it with some ink that I have, and then cut it in half in order to paste it across 2 pages. So after this section is where I started to really get into the kind of scrapbooking style here. So next section is the Native American commandments, which Native American spirituality is a very, very big part of my spiritual path, even to this day. And so I wanted this page to be very simple but very beautiful. And I feel that I achieved that simply by distressing the page with these 2 beautiful inks that I had, and this beautiful image of an eagle that I found, and I kind of photoshopped the words in here. But the text is in red down here, and the title is in blue to kind of reflect the idea of the red road and the blue road in Native American spirituality. So these are kind of guidelines for how to live your life while you are walking the red road here on Earth. And the blue up here, the blue road next to eagle or spirit. So it just seemed a little bit appropriate to me. I don't know if that's true, but to me it works. So, and then the next page is just a scrapbook page, but it's personal. These are my dogs. They will actually be 11 in February. So I did this kind of like a baby book, and I cried when I got it done because it turned out so much better than I thought it would, and it's so cute. But here they're about 9 weeks old, so shortly after we got them. This is Phoenix with his big head, and then Harley over there. So in the center here, they're roughly 3 years old. And then right here, this is the most recent picture. There's Phoenix and there's Harley. And right here, they're about 8.5. So the Braunschweiger and the hedgehog, those are just images that I associate with my dogs because Phoenix loves his squeaky hedgehog toys. We have gone through at least 2 a year since we've had these dogs. He just absolutely loves them and tears them to shreds. And Harley's favorite food is Braunschweiger. He would rather have some Braunschweiger than bacon. It is his favorite thing in the world. So the next section is very simple, but I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. This is one of my favorite sections. The 12 Laws of Karma. So scrapbook paper, tie-dye scrapbook paper with everything just kind of printed out and pasted in. Very simple, very elegant. And then we get to my section on the Wheel of the Year. And I set this up so that I could actually move the wheel as the year goes by. And I'm terrible at remembering dates, so I washi taped in a card right here so that I can actually write down the Sabbath dates for the year, because I'm terrible at remembering them until like the day of. Sorry. Then a very short and sweet version of the cycle of the god and the goddess, simply because I think that it's a very fascinating mythology. I really do. And I'm very drawn to the pentacle, so I have that on here, but the god and the goddess symbol. And then a lengthier version of their journey with my favorite image of them. That's my favorite god and goddess image. So then we get to, I'm sure you guys can guess which section this is, but these are my moon pages, and they actually flip out. So this side I have the phases and a couple of important definitions and lots of fancy things on here. In this envelope I actually have a page on drawing down the moon. And on this other side here, I have the lunar calendar with, I made a pocket with some scrap paper, but another pretty here. And then again, I'm terrible at remembering dates, so I have a card that has the full moon dates for the year, the new moon dates for the year, and then a moon time tracker for myself, because I've been having some feminine issues, and just kind of keeping track of it makes life a little bit easier for me. So I actually cut these 2 pages from one piece of scrapbook paper that I found. The Halloween stuff just happened to be out when I went in one day and I saw this paper and I said, oh my god, I know exactly what I'm going to use that for. I have got to have it. So then we get to my section on the elements, which is very simple but beautiful. So this is just a page that I printed out and went around it with ink and put these pretty decal corners on. And then we get to the actual elements themselves. So I found these beautiful like elemental goddess images and appropriate background papers with and I just printed out the correspondences for each of them. And all of my element pages are actually set up pretty much the same as this. And in the envelope, I have an invocation to each element, which, I mean, I keep these closed with that like poster tack that you can get for like dorm rooms. So just because it was laying around, I decided to put it on here. This is actually a like circle paper clip with a tree charm that I just absolutely love. So then we get to air, and again, basically same setup. Have an invocation in the envelope, and this is a blue jay feather that I found in my neighborhood. Excuse me. Again, roughly same setup. Invocation in the envelope, and this is an image that I created on Microsoft Word and printed out and then just like pasted it on there. And then water, same setup here, and I actually live like 5 minutes from the Mississippi River, so I find a lot of eagle feathers, or seagull feathers, excuse me. I find a lot of seagull feathers. And so this is just one of the seagull feathers that I have found on my walks along the river, because I can't actually put water in this book, so having a water bird feather I thought would be appropriate. And then we get to spirit, which basically, just like my book blessing page, if I thought it was pretty, I just kind of threw it on here. And I didn't feel like making another envelope, so I just washi taped the invocation in here. And I had a like S-shaped paper clip and this amazing compass charm, so I just went ahead and put those on there. I don't know why, I was just very drawn to do so. So then the next page, it's another scrapbook page, but this page is dedicated to my love of books and reading. So I've got some more pretties on here, and this is actually a poem that I wrote myself about everything that I feel and experience when I read a really, really, really good book. And on here, just for the hell of it, I drew a Deathly Hallows symbol, because Harry Potter is probably my favorite series in existence. And then I made a like library card folder here, envelope, and inside I printed these little teeny tiny library cards that I keep a reading list on. So then the next page is like a definitions page. So what is magic? How does magic work? And a definition for energy. With this Halloween paper that I found and some more fancy corners. And just because I felt like it, a leaf sticker, because I thought that it matched the paper, and it was kind of empty there and I didn't like it, so put that leaf sticker there. And then my candles page, Candle Magic. So I just printed this out, put it on this beautiful paper back here. I put a like fancy border on here, and I printed out this like candle stencil and colored it myself and then pasted it in here. So it actually turned out a lot nicer than I thought it would. This is one of my top pages. I love this. It turned out really nice. And then we get to a section that I did completely by hand, which is my color correspondences. And I actually used acrylic paints to paint like little daubs of colors. And if I had multiple shades, then I just kind of did up the multiple shades for each color, and then went around the edges with watercolor paints. and finished off the section with this amazing color wheel that I found on Pinterest. It's just beautiful. It's all these different images. It's just gorgeous. So then we get to my section on numbers, which again is really very simple. I distressed the pages and then printed all of this information out, and just to make them look pretty, put these like little gemstones, and each page has different color gemstones. So, and then master numbers, because it's a concept that I find super interesting. I am very big into numbers and numerology. I've never been that big on astrology, but for me, numbers and colors are huge. So I definitely wanted beautiful sections for those two things in this book. So I did put a section on planetary energies in here, not because I work with them, but because I like being able to identify when they are present in my life and how they are affecting what's going on in my life and how they're affecting me at the time. So did some watercolor pages, and then I went on NASA's website and actually printed off images for all the different planets. And then just put in the information that I wanted in here. And finished it off with a beautiful image of the Milky Way, which is the galaxy that we live in. It's just beautiful. That image is just gorgeous. So, and then this was kind of a last minute, just all of a sudden thought to add it in here. But planetary retrogrades, and it's another flip out page that I basically printed and put these borders on, another pretty decal. So it goes over what kind of energies and experiences you can expect to experience during each planetary retrograde. Very simple. So we are coming to the very last section that I have in here right now, which is my section on the sun and solar energies. So I did this one very similar to my moon pages, where both of these actually flip out. So I didn't want to do a title page. Instead, I found this really cool solar like paper, crafting paper, and printed my favorite image of the sun and went around it with this really pretty orange ink, put page corners on here. This side I have a list of solar gods and goddesses and like which pantheons they belong to. So you open this first page and it's strictly information. Scientific, spiritual, I mean, you name it. I just kind of condensed it all down to what I felt needed to be in here. And again, I have an envelope with information on drawing down the sun. So then you flip this page up, if I can get it, with one hand. And these are my favorite sun symbols and what they represent. So the astrological and alchemical sign, very familiar with that one. And then the Pueblo sun sign, which is actually like, it's a huge part of my path and my belief system. At some point I'm going to get the medicine wheel in this book too, but it was not relevant to this section in particular, so it's going to have its own little section. And then the winged globe of Egypt, simply because excuse me, you can see my dog in the background. That's Phoenix. Hi, Fifi. But I think he's going to jump up here with me. Maybe not. But I am obsessed with pretty much anything Egyptian, so I wanted that in here as well. So that's the last section that I have completed. The next thing I plan to put in here is smudging. Like smudging what it is and how you do it, some of the different herbs that you can smudge with, that kind of thing. So we flip to the second insert that I have in here. And can you guess what kind of paper is in here? It is manuscript paper. And again, I did it like traveler insert style. But basically, because I'm trying to teach myself how to read and write music, I wanted this in here so that way I could use it like as a workbook. But obviously I haven't used it yet, so I'm actually not sure at this point if I'm going to keep this in here or not. I really don't know. So the very last page, this is actually a leaf that I found at work. So I have home up front with the maple leaves, and then this one from work. And I'm not sure what kind of tree it came off of. I should know, but I don't. It was just laying there so beautiful, so I decided to bring it home and put it in this book. So, and you can see the chains on my necklaces. The very last thing that I did was I made a envelope to put in the back of this book so I can keep like extra papers and stuff. So this right here is actually a list for myself of everything that I want in this book. And then I have some extra library cards that I keep my reading lists on. So that is my new Book of Shadows, which I call my Book of Songs. And if you have sat through this whole video, I thank you for your patience. I have always been that person that believes that creativity and ideas are meant to be shared. If you are one of those people that feel uncomfortable sharing your spiritual book, that is A-okay. Like, I do not expect to see yours just because I have shown you mine. I completely respect not wanting to show your spiritual book. Like I said, I don't really put personal stuff in here. I have other journals for that I don't show anybody. So I completely understand. But I wanted to post a video on this because I wanted to chronicle where I'm at with it, because I need to take a break from it. But also, I think ideas should be shared. So I am hoping that some of the things that I did in this book can inspire others to keep working on their books. So if you have sat through this whole video, I thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.